Basically, how fast do you contact probates after they're filed? Because I've been doing them monthly,
Yeah.
and I find that a lot of investors contact some of these people.
So once they file the probate, it's fair game. Because you got to understand, I'm not a big fan of chasing people down on obituaries because usually obituaries are within a week of a death. And if you've ever had, listen, we've all had death of like it's just part of life. It's hard, man. Like the last thing you want to do is negotiate a contract when you're grieving the loss of someone. So most people file a probate within 30 to 60 days, probably closer to 45 days after the death of a person. And so the problem is, I like to respect people. I was actually very conservative when I started, and I found out the hard way. The longer I wait, the worse my odds got. So once they file the probate, because it's somewhat of a public record, they've got to understand that people are going to notice. So you might as well just try to contact them first and try to connect with them, because the problem is when 2 or 3 realtors contact them and then 2 or 3 investors, and then you wait, try to be the nice guy and wait another 30 days.
Yeah.
You're kind of done. Now, occasionally it might work for you. I'm like, hey, thanks, Antoine, so much for respecting me, not running me over the day we posted the probate. But I found out the hard way, dude. You keep in mind, for the longest time, I refused to do a cold call on a probate because I thought it was like ambulance chasing. Dude, I was wrong. Like I was really bad about it. And I had a 17-year-old kid explain it to me, my son. He goes, dude, dad, just call them. You're getting beat. I don't know, it's not respectful. Dude, the kid took down 9 probates in like a 4-month period, and we changed the whole way we did it. So we do the cold calling. I call it warm calling, and we do the letter. And we make them opposite. So one I would do under my name and the other one I would do under my son's, or one I would do under my name and one I do under a company name. And it's kind of like the McDonald's and Burger King approach. Like some people so I like the fries at McDonald's. I don't know what they do to those fries. I'm sure it's not good for me. And then I like the Whopper at BK. I like their fish sandwich too. But it's like some people just prefer McDonald's, some prefer Burger King. And here's what a lot of them say. They go, Mr. Rick, I am so glad you wrote me that letter because I think it's so bad when people sit there and call me, and I will never do business with someone and cold call me from the death of a family member. And then I get the opposite. I'm so glad you called me because I would have never had the guts to call you off of a letter or anything. So while I have you on the phone, let me discuss it. That's it. Don't try to look in the philosophy of it because a lot of this doesn't make it. Once that probate's out there, it means everybody has the fair right to chase it. Whoever gets to it first and connects with them naturally wins. End of story. So I tried another one where I tried to pull 6 months of probates when I first started. Dude, nightmare. I spent so much time like trying to mail and call, and I never got, and most of them are like, oh, I wish you called me a month ago. I already struck a deal with an investor. I'm like, so speed does kill in probates. I know that's an oxymoron statement, but it is true. Do it as soon as you can and don't try to rash out. Once they file it, that's it. Now I get people go, well, Rick, should I call off the obituaries? I'm like, dude, have a heart. Like that's a little rough to me, but some people are like big on that. I think it's just very ice cold to do that. Like, guys, I want to help people. I don't want to aggravate people. So, but you do have to aggravate them like to a point. And trust me, I've been called every name in the book because I did all the probate calls the first year and a half, meaning I did all the letters, all the inbound calls, and boy, I got called some nasty, whatever. Like, I don't care what people think. I really don't. And you know what? If you don't want to do it, just hang up and move on with your life. I'm not going to bother you. So with probates, when they tell me I don't want to hear from you anymore, I end it. Like, I don't play games with people in probate. Okay. I look at it like if it was my family member, I'd want them to treat me the exact same way. And that's how you have to look at it. So just pretend your mom, your aunt, hopefully you have a good relationship with them. But speed, man, like get to it as fast as you can, because sometimes, do you ever notice like sometimes whoever connects with the person first, they usually win because people are like loyal by human nature. Like, oh, I've already talked to Antoine. And if Antoine doesn't buy the house, I'll call you back. That's typically how people go through the progression, unless they want to deal specifically with a realtor, which there's not much I can do for those. Does that help you out? You got to move fast as you can. I tried. If in the perfect world, I'd take 6 months of probate and I'd just rip through them. You won't get anywhere doing that. You're going to have to do like thousands of them to get through that because most of the properties are already contracted or they're sold and it's too late. So remember, I'm trying to beat the lawyer because the lawyers just get in the way in a probate for me. I find lawyers the most annoying thing in a probate because I don't need the lawyer's permission to do a probate. I just need him to push his little paperwork, him or her. And so if you get the consent of the PR, the executor in a probate, the lawyer just has to go and do their job. I don't ever want to talk to the lawyer. They always screw up a deal. So the only way I can do that is I have to get to the PR sooner than later. And by the way, a lot of PRs like, well, I'm going to run it by my lawyer. I'm like, okay. And then like we wait and like a week or two will go by because lawyers do everything on their own time and get frustrated. They go, listen, I'm just going to sign it. I'll just have my lawyer. I'll give it to him later. Okay. You can't do it without speed.
Okay. And
what else you got?
I got a question about, so I still work a full-time job. So after I get off, then I do my cold calling. So I don't really have time to drive for dollars during the week. So I do that on the weekends. And on a good day, I can get about 500 to 600 leads. But I find that if I do reverse drive for dollars, it slows me down quite a bit.
You know what? At the end of the day, Anton, you got to do what works best for you. So the fact that you're working a full-time job, and like I always tell people, don't jump off the ship. If you have obligations and you need to do some basic, like keep rent paid, your mortgage, whatever it is, quitting your job and going full-time wholesaling with like no leads or no nothing is usually creates so much anxiety and fear. To me, it's not worth it. So I had obligations. I had to do it. So I worked almost 7.5 months, to be honest with you, right around 8. And I did it. And honestly, I worked a lot. So I had a job. It was 10 and a half hours. And then I had little babies and I had a wife, and it was exhausting. And but I wanted to give it a shot. So if it reverse driving for dollars doesn't work for you, then that's fine. Like pick what's going to work best for you, because like at the end of the day, you do have to have some downtime, and you didn't get in this business to like never see the light of day. There's got to be a light at the end of the tunnel. So gravitate towards the stuff, not that's easy, but that's being productive and effective. And if reverse driving for dollars is slowing you down, and by the way, reverse driving for dollars is not that easy, because you got to figure out the logistics of it, and it takes a lot of timing and planning, and that's where you're getting hung up on. And I agree with you, because you have other obligations. So you have to prioritize and find what's going to be the most effective for you. So if it's strictly cold calling, I agree with you. I'm not here to fight you on it. I find reverse driving for dollars, in theory, it's great and it works, but it does take a lot of time and planning. And sometimes if you're working an 8 or 10 hour a day job, you only have so much time. Throw kids on top of that, all other taking care of like older family members, which I do, is challenging, guys. And so I don't want you to choke yourself out. That's not the purpose. You got to still have somewhat of a life, but you are making the sacrifice because you're basically working 2 jobs, and one you're kind of learning on the fly.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks I've been splitting it up. So Saturday I'll do reverse drive for dollars on the probates, and then on Sunday I'll just do my regular drive for dollars. So 500 leads a week, is that enough that I could probably make something happen? Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter as much as it takes.
Listen, you get as much as you can. There is no limit. You can, by the way, I'll repeat myself. You can never have enough leads. The question is, at what point does the quality of your life, like, it just gets to the point where it's just nothing's fun? And listen, we're all humans. Like, we have to have a life. And especially when you have kids, you have to set some time aside, because kids don't understand what you're doing. So I was fortunate enough, my kids were young enough when I put in that hard 2 years, and my wife helped me make sacrifices. But boy, dude, Saturday was go day for me. 10, 12 hours minimum out. Either I was meeting with a client, or I was finding a lead, or I was on the phone with someone. I never let 1 hour go to waste on Saturday. Sunday was like a half day. I had to do that, and sometimes they were all day. But you just got to kind of press the gas pedal and find things that work within you. You can't do anything if you're working a job and doing it. So you got to find the stuff that you're making progress with. And sometimes you do a certain technique or a lead generation and it just doesn't work. And I get it. Then get rid of it and find the stuff that you have the most confidence with, and just keep on going. Okay? Because
the thing is that it actually works. Like when I've been doing probates, I've gotten more leads than I usually do on cold calling list.
Yeah. And I tell everyone, you can do probates to have a full-time job, and it's not very taxing. That's why I tell everybody to do it, because you won't broke. And number 2, it doesn't take a lot of time because of calling you. It's when you go on the offensive doing driving for dollars, reverse driving for dollars, and cold calling on government lists, you're going to have to prioritize your time. So you just got to find the best way to go and drive yourself completely crazy and just go nuts on Saturday. Because like I looked at Saturday like 3 full days. I would start really early. I would set my day up. I got all the leads, and then I knew who I was going to see. And then I have 3 hours of just calling everybody on follow-ups. And then I left like the last 3 hours to catch anybody that called me back that I could visit the last minute, because I find Saturday one of the best days to do any type of physical appointments or virtual appointments, because people are open. They're not working as much, especially the second half of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. Just come up with a plan with it, and just speed kills with probates. So remember that. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Okay, awesome.